Hey everyone, I'm Kevin from Prosalum and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that's been keeping a lot of business owners up at night. How to actually cut labor costs without, well, destroying your business in the process. And look, I'm bringing this up now because the data that just came out is pretty sobering. Small businesses shed 120,000 jobs in November alone. That's according to ADP's latest employment report that dropped just 2 weeks ago. But here's what's interesting. While most businesses are cutting people, the ones that are actually growing, they're doing something completely different. So if you've been wrestling with rising labor costs, feeling like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, this one's for you. Because what I'm going to show you today isn't about cutting corners, it's about cutting inefficiencies. And there's a massive difference between the two. Let's start with what's happening in manufacturing right now. Manufacturing businesses lost 18,000 jobs last month, and most owners are blaming it on tariff uncertainty or supply chain issues. But I've been working with manufacturers for years, and I can tell you the real story is different. The manufacturers that are thriving right now, and I mean actually growing while their competitors are struggling, they figured out something crucial. They stopped thinking about labor as just people doing tasks and started thinking about it as processes that need to be executed. Here's what I mean. When you hire someone in manufacturing, what typically happens? You spend weeks training them, they make mistakes while they're learning, maybe they stick around for 6 months, maybe they don't. Then you start the whole cycle over again. That's not really a labor cost problem, that's a systems problem that looks like a people problem. The shift that changes everything is this. Instead of asking, how do I find cheaper workers, you ask, how do I make my processes so clear and documented that anyone can execute them perfectly? Because when you have that level of documentation, you're not paying for expertise over and over again, you're just paying for execution, and execution costs way less than expertise. Now let's talk about professional services. I'll use accounting as an example. The US Chamber just released their Q4 business confidence data, and here's a stat that should get your attention. 26% of small businesses now say workforce challenges are their biggest concern. That's more than doubled from just a year ago. But here's what's really happening in accounting firms, and this might hit close to home. Most of what you think requires a $50,000 a year bookkeeper is actually the same repetitive processes over and over again, just with different client data. Data entry, client communication, invoice processing, follow-ups, these aren't really accounting tasks that require deep expertise. They're process-following tasks that happen to exist inside an accounting business. And here's the thing. If it's process-following rather than decision-making, it can be systematized and delegated for a fraction of what you're currently paying. The breakthrough happens when you start documenting these processes as they're being done. So instead of just getting the task completed, you're building a library of exactly how your business operates. When you have that level of documentation, you're not dependent on any one person to keep your operations running. Let's look at healthcare, because this industry is notorious for thinking everything needs specialized, expensive staff. But the healthcare practices that are scaling profitably right now have figured something out. Patient scheduling, insurance verification, follow-up calls, basic intake processes, none of these actually require medical expertise. They require following documented procedures consistently. But most practices are paying healthcare wages for what are essentially administrative processes. The game changer is when you start treating your practice like a system that produces patient outcomes, rather than a collection of individual experts solving problems on the fly. When you document how to handle scheduling, how to process insurance, how to manage patient communications, suddenly you realize that maybe 60 to 70% of what happens in your practice can be systematized and delegated. And here's where it gets really interesting for your bottom line. When you have those systems documented, you can work with virtual team members who cost about half of what you'd pay locally, but they're actually documenting your systems while they work. So you get the task completion and you build your systems at the same time. So if you're watching this thinking, okay, Kevin, this makes sense, but where exactly do I start? Here's what I'd recommend. First, take our business systemization assessment. It's completely free, takes about 2 minutes, and it'll show you exactly where your biggest bottlenecks are and what's costing you the most time and money. You can find that at quiz.myprosalem.com. If you want to see how to turn any task into a documented procedure in about 60 seconds, check out instant.myprosalem.com. You just describe what you do and it creates a step-by-step procedure you can hand to anyone. And if you want the full framework for how to systematize your entire business, we've got a free 4-video course called Systemize Your Business in 5 minutes a day. You can grab that at prosalem.com. All right, let me leave you with the 3 things that separate businesses that scale from businesses that stay stuck. Number 1, stop thinking about labor costs as a people problem. Start thinking about it as a systems problem. The businesses winning right now aren't cutting people, they're cutting inefficiencies through better documentation. Number 2, every task is either decision-making or process following. If it's process following, it can be systematized and delegated for way less than what you're paying now. Number 3, the fastest way to cut labor costs is actually to work with the right virtual team, but only if they're building your systems while they work, not just completing tasks. Look, here's the reality. You can keep doing what you're doing, hiring locally, training people over and over, hoping they stick around, paying full-time wages for part-time productivity, or you can make the shift that our most successful clients have made. Our virtual systems architects work across 40 different industries. They cost about half of what you'd pay for equivalent in-house staff. But here's the key difference. They document every process while they work. So you don't just get task completion, you get a systematized business that's more valuable and scalable. If you're ready to stop trading your time for money and start building a business that actually works without you, go to prosalem.com right now and book a discovery call. We'll look at your specific situation and show you exactly how to implement this in your business. The link's in the description below, or just head straight to prosalem.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you